Welcome back to Bleacher Boys podcast for another midweek show with your boy Bryan and Gavin. And before we get started, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe to our video. Help us get out there in the algorithm, help us gain engagement, and we will make sure we return the favor with keeping this content consistent as possible. So Gavin, man, breaking news just a few hours ago, Michael Malone from the Denver Nuggets, their head coach, who won a championship just 2 years ago, fired with 5 games left in the season. I think, for lack of better terms, this was a shock to everybody. I don't think anybody probably outside of their organization knew this was coming. But from everything I've heard, I listened to Chris Broussard, who made a call to some people who he knows inside the organization. He mentioned that their locker room and really their organization has been really toxic this year especially. And I don't think it helps that you have the best player, unquestionably, even though he's probably not going to win the MVP this year, but they have the unquestioned best player in the league who's averaging like 45, 12, and 10 in a 4-game losing streak. And it just seems like they are at their wits' end, and they kind of pull the Memphis Grizzlies, and they're like, maybe we get this guy out of here, and maybe this will bolster us to make a good playoff run. Because it sounded like there were players, he runs a short rotation. He runs only like a 7 to 8 man rotation in the regular season, which is not super typical in the NBA. And it is pretty heavily reported that he's one of those coaches that kind of coaches really hard, but he's selective who he coaches hard. So it's like when you're coaching 3 to 4 guys really hard, but you're giving other guys preferential treatment, and then you're like not winning up to expectations, that's where I think you can start find some loopholes in there. And it looks like they pulled the trigger, man. So what do you think?
Yeah, man, it was interesting. I know I called you about it. I was sitting here, man. I was working from home. I had to do some stuff this morning. Got back, and I'm working from home, and I hear the ESPN alert, man, and I was like, "What is that?" And so usually, like a lot of times, like I'll let it go. Like I'll get a couple of them, and then I'll like go through them and see like what the news was. And I just looked over, and it says, Nuggets fire Mike Malone, and I'm like, "What in the world just happened?" So I called you and I was like, "Dude, did you see that?" And I know you were driving and you're like, "Nah." And we had a conversation. Man, it's interesting. You go back, I don't know. The first thing that popped into my brain is when they won the championship and they had Bruce Brown. And I don't remember if you remember this or not, but they had Bruce Brown, and it came up like after the parade, and it was like, "What are you going to do about Bruce Brown?" Because he was a free agent. He was going into a free agent year. And Mike Malone was like, "We're keeping him. He's not going anywhere." Ends up, he's gone. So it's like, was that like the first domino? Like, you don't want to speculate that far back, but it was interesting. And then you see like the other night, Jokic is going in on his teammates and like can tell like, and the guy doesn't show a lot of emotion anyway. So like for him to be like that visibly upset, like it does make you start to think like, is there something going on in the locker room that, if somebody's not there, is there something that we're not seeing? For them to almost be, I think, they're a 4 seed right now in the West, behind the Lakers and behind the Rockets. I mean, nobody's catching the Thunder, but they're a 4 seed. It's just, and then they also fired their GM. I don't know if you saw that as well. They also fired their GM. So it's really interesting, especially when things like this happen and all across all sports. Like, you fire a coach that you think is like, oh, he's not going anywhere. And then you fire him and you're like, okay, what's going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing as fans? So really interesting to kind of see that. I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't have. He's 2 years removed from an NBA title. Like, I don't really see it. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I don't know. You might be able to make sense of it. I can't.
I don't know if you can really make sense of it. There is some precedence to this, maybe not like midseason, but we saw Mike Budenholzer with the Milwaukee Bucks. He was outed after 2 years, and you could say that was on the request of Giannis, or not Giannis, but Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then we saw like David Blatt after he won the pandemic title with the
Vogel,
Lakers.
Frank Vogel.
Oh, Frank Vogel. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Frank Vogel.
Yeah.
Frank Vogel, and he was out, just a couple years removed from that.
Well, let's be honest. I mean,
So,
LeBron fired him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can say both of those were kind of player firings, but they were at end of seasons, not literally right before the playoffs. So, I mean, just like the Grizzlies, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If you're a betting man, which I'm not going to be betting on them, but I might just be like, hey, whoever they're playing in the first round, I might put my money on them because even though Jokic is playing great, like how much team chemistry they have, and Jamal Murray has not been able to stay healthy the last couple of years. He's still in street clothes right now, so I mean he's arguably still their second best player. It's like Jokic can do a lot, but he can't do it all. And for a guy that doesn't play defense, but has huge upside, if not some of the best upside we've ever seen on the NBA court. You still have to have a full-fledged team, especially coming out of the West, because you still have the Timberwolves who are built literally to beat the Nuggets, and a lot of these teams can just, even the Lakers, can just run them off the court. With Jamal Murray not being there and it not having their head coach. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for the rest of the season. And now we already have two head coaching vacancies available going into next year. And remarkably, both of these teams are actually playoff teams. So you could all argue that both of these are still very good jobs to be had. And it'll be interesting to see who takes the place after these playoff runs inevitably end short.
Yeah, no, and it definitely, we can revert back a little bit to previous episodes when I talked about, who I had in the West. I think I kind of got to take the Nuggets out of that. I mean, I would be shocked if they made it to the Western Conference Finals. I really would. I guess, my next pick, speculating. I mean, it's tough to bet against Jokic, but my next pick is probably going to be the Rockets. I like the Rockets. I like Jalen Green's playing out of his mind. Dude, did you see that reverse oop he had? Like, come on, dude. That's ridiculous. Yeah, dude's freaky. My next one will be the Rockets, but, we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, I do think that you bring up a great point in the fact that there are two playoff teams that have coaching vacancies, and the season's not over yet. Really, really interesting what's going on. So, yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see where it all shakes out. And when the dust settles, what happens.
I will say, on the last note on this, that this is probably making for some of the best drama the NBA season has had in a long time. And it almost, there has to be absolutely zero conspiracy theories to this. But it does seem like as the NBA ratings have dropped off the last couple of years, and and I think the load management are like the two biggest talking points throughout NBA season. Because the NBA playoffs are still great. They're still highly entertaining, get great ratings. But the NBA season, almost kind of like the MLB season, has kind of tailed off the last decade or so. But this is, I think, brings some eyes back to it heading into the playoffs. And it'll be interesting to see how this drama all unfolds. But transitioning from NBA to college men's basketball, we had the Florida Gators, I believe your pick from the very jump to win the national title, edge out Houston last night in a kind of a sloppy game. And you can attribute that to what you want to, but inevitably the best team came out on top. And I think when you look at how the college playoff tournament went, you would have to say, even though Florida was kind of the cardiac kids all throughout, I want to say since the Sweet 16, they've been down heading into the last couple minutes of every game, and definitely down at halftime and came out and won. So you can't say they've played the best basketball wire to wire, but they have definitely been the most clutch team. And you would say now that they've won, they were hottest team going through this tournament.
Yeah, man, I agree with you in the sense that it was a very sloppy game. It just seemed like everything was forced, man. And the one thing, and you might disagree with me on this, Florida was my pick. I wanted Florida to win. Being from Florida, I root for Florida football, so I'm a Gator. But I thought that the officiating last night was a little piss poor. I didn't think it was the best in a national championship game. Actually, my best friend since kindergarten, he was in town with his wife, and so they stayed the night over here. And we were talking about it, and he played basketball in high school and had opportunities to go play in college. Just didn't love the game. But anyway, so we were talking about it, and he's like, man, in a game like this, like as a player, like you don't want like that stuff to be called. Like you want it to be physical. Like you want to know who's got the more grit and grind to gut this out and win this game. So I thought the officiating last night was a little subpar. Was not happy to see that in a game of that magnitude. I tell you, Walter Clayton, the kid's got just ice in his veins. I mean, he just steps up in just big moments. And like you said, you would love if the Magic get him. And then Houston, man, Houston plays some damn good defense.
Yeah.
And I don't know, dude, like you feel bad for Houston and Coach Sampson over there just because of the fact that I think out of the last 5 seasons, they have made it past the Sweet 16 and gotten eliminated. Like, it was like, I think it was like a Sweet 16, an Elite Eight, a Sweet 16, a Final Four, and then a national championship, like elimination. So you feel bad, man. You're like, damn, like you'd like to see Houston get over that hump. But man, I like to see Florida win it, especially with how strong the SEC was this year. It was good to see. But yeah, man, I did say this to my buddy too, and we had this conversation on the last episode. I felt like this year's Final Four was like the best like Final Four that we've gotten in a long time.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think wire to wire, like I said, there's a lot of people out there, a big portion of the country that really enjoys the Cinderella and they love the underdog team. I think I think for pure entertainment value, when we have close games going to the wire and good basketball played from beginning to end, I think it's better for the sport, it's better for the viewer, it's better for the fan. And again, going back to the NIL thing and transfer portal, I think the Cinderella, I think we're going to get one Cinderella a year, but it's not going to be how it used to, where a team that was the 40th ranked team is going to make a run all the way to the Final Four and then get blasted. I think those days are gone. And I think the cream is going to rise to the top every year. We're going to see a lot of 1 and 2 seeds making it to the Final Four going forward in all sports, but definitely in basketball. And your typical powers will stay typical powers as long as the funding is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see the like way too early rankings. I love doing those after the national championship, and I think I saw one where they actually had Houston at number 1. With what they got coming in next year.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. I'm sitting here thinking about this while you were sitting there talking, and I saw something on Barstool Sports today, and it was Big Cat from Barstool talking about Duke probably being the biggest choke artist like in like recent years, like in the last like decade, with the players that they have had come through there with Paulo, with Tatum. I mean, there's been some names, and to not have a national championship, not even make it to a championship game, pretty interesting. You're like, damn, is Duke going to be one of those ones that kind of just teeters off? Who knows?
My take on that is, first of all, I think up until like 4 years ago, how long has Zion been? So up until 5 years ago, Coach K, the first 5 years of the transfer portal, Coach K was very resistant to the one and dones. So his team struggled because he was not recruiting and bringing kids in who he knew they would be a one and done. And then he finally embraced it, and he got R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and Camp.
Mm-hmm.
And that team, I think they were the number 1, number 2, and like number 10 prospects in the country at that time. And we saw that team make it to the Elite Eight. I don't think that team made it to the Final Four.
Man, I have to go back and look. We need to hire a stat guy.
Yeah, we do. Y'all start sending some donations so we can hire a guy. We don't need to get paid, but we need to hire a guy.
Yeah.
But anywho, I think Duke has always and will always be well coached. But I think the fact that even them being in the Final Four, they had the least amount of team continuity in the Final Four. Houston had multiple guys, Auburn had multiple guys, and Florida had multiple guys that played in the program for more than 1 year. And Duke had way more guys that this was their first year at Duke. Mm-hmm. So I think, team continuity, we see it at every level, but even on the basketball level, like you have to have some kind of continuity, because when the games come down in the clutch, having that is what propels the teams over top when you know what your teammates are going to do, what the tendencies are, and like who's the real big dog to help close out games. And we knew like Cooper Flagg was like the guy, but even in their game, like he wasn't the guy that had the ball in his hand to finish that game, because the teams were forcing the ball out of his hand to get it to other people. So while I think Big Cat's assessment of that is true, I think that is a low-hanging fruit when it comes to a take, being that Duke is always going to have a tough time because they're always going to have the lack of continuity in their program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. And by the way, it was the Elite Eight. They made it to the Elite Eight with Zion and got knocked out by Michigan State. The one thing, man, I'll add on last night's game is I wish that kid, and I can't think of his name now, for Houston, the point guard that had been good for them the entire tournament. I wish he would have chucked that last shot up.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, was it a great look? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But chuck it up, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's March Madness. Like, it's the tournament. Like, you can't, I don't know. Like, that's almost like I equate that to like striking out looking in a
Yeah,
national championship game for baseball and you're down a run with bases loaded and 2 outs. Like,
yeah.
bro, like just swing the bat. Like, if you swing the bat, it is what it is. But striking out looking, it's like, and he goes and it was a shitty way to end their season. I feel like, had he put that up, it would have been a lot better. But that was just going to be my last point. Is I wish he would have just got it out of his hands and just thrown it up and seen what happened.
I agree with you, brother. Definitely should have threw it up. You never know what can happen.
Hmm.
You never know how the apple will fall closer to the tree or not. But to go from basketball power to the MLB baseball power, a guy that has been a staple for this franchise for a few years now. He's a legacy player, I guess a legacy kid who's now a grown man and making his own mark in the league. And I just go back to ever since I was 12 or 13, like my dreams were playing professional baseball. And just getting a shot. I just wanted a shot, at making it to the big leagues. And honestly, I would have played baseball for peanuts
Yeah.
if I just could have kept going. The money aspect of it, I can't say like, oh, I would have just the money was never came into my effect. But for me, the money was more about giving me the freedom to just be able to play baseball every day and
Hmm.
take care of my family than hoping I could buy a $30 million mansion and drive a Bugatti. Like that was never who I was and still not who I am today, even if I won, lottery for 20 million. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. a 500 million, half a billy, 14-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. That deal came down yesterday. Big deal, but just my personal take, and I'll turn it over to you. For me, I love that. First of all, I love that the guy got paid. Like, making your mark, as his dad is a Hall of Fame player and was one of my favorite players watch Vladimir Guerrero Sr. since the early 90s, I think, when he made his debut in like 97 or 98. One of the best arms I've ever seen. Definitely some of the wackiest home runs I've seen where I
Mm.
remember a ball literally bounced off the ground and he still hit a home run of it. Probably the freest swinger we've ever seen that actually like was still a good hitter.
Yeah, it still hit. Yeah.
'Cause I still believe if his career average wasn't over 300, it was definitely above 295. And for a guy that literally hit balls from his eyes to bouncing off the ground, Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was definitely a one of a kind ball player. And this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is definitely a lot more refined. Not quite the athlete and not quite the build as his dad, but still almost equally as dominant of a hitter. And the Toronto Blue Jays definitely, wanted to invest in him. But for me personally, this deal, while I'm happy he got paid, was a non-needle mover for me. Because I don't know if this does anything for their franchise moving forward as far as making them even more competitive for the next decade in their own division, let alone the AL, let alone ever winning a title there. But man, how do you feel about it? What was your outlook? What was your reaction when the news dropped yesterday?
Yeah, we got to start finding some stuff that we can talk about. We're not going to have the same damn mindset. I feel like we think a lot alike, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, I agree with you. It wasn't something that I was like, well, hell yeah. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, this makes them a contender. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think I would have given him that much money personally. I would have tried to move that money around somewhere else. While I do like Junior, I don't think he is as pure of a hitter as his dad was. His dad
Yeah,
was the best bad ball hitter we've
yeah,
ever seen and probably will ever see. But it didn't to me. I was like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why such a big contract? You can put that money in other places. You can go get your pitching staff a little bit better. And the thing that's really interesting that I think a lot of people forget about is he said that he wasn't having negotiations during the season. And here we are a week into the season, 2 weeks into the season, and he has the negotiation. So a little odd. You're just kind of like, okay, what? But when the money is that big, I guess. I guess he was chasing his bag. I don't know. But yeah, to me, I don't think he is worth that much. I think he's definitely a cornerstone for that franchise, but I don't think it was worth what they gave him,
yeah.
in my personal opinion. It doesn't do it for me. But hey, I'm cool with it. I'm a Red Sox fan. y'all spend all that money right there. Don't get your pitching staff better. We'll just beat you every year, and we'll be good to go.
I think what it does for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is obviously it gives him his own family substantiating money. Like Vladimir Guerrero Sr., I have no idea what he made, but being that he's from the Dominican, he made more than enough money to not just take care of his family for generations, but to take care of his whole village, as a lot of Dominican players do when they make it to the big leagues. And now Vladimir Guerrero Jr. probably has made, I guess him and God, I'm drawing a blank. What's the guy from the Mets that just signed a deal? Soto. So like him and Soto are probably the two wealthiest guys that come from the island of Dominican Republic now. And that, like, I don't know if you've ever been to the Dominican. I have. But $1 million goes a very long way. But $500 million, they could probably buy the island if they wanted to. They could probably overthrow the government with that kind of money if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But for me, I think this is a sign that, and we've been hearing rumors going back to last year on this, but I think Bo Bichette, even more now, is going to be a guy that's going to be on a trading block to be traded to a contending team so that the Blue Jays can get a lot of prospects back and try to revamp their team through the draft and the farm system. And I haven't known Bo probably for 8 or 9 years, but I actually used to hit with Dante Bichette Sr. and Dante Bichette Jr. because they live in greater Orlando, Florida. And I remember Bo when he was 10 years old. He was like this chubby 5-foot kid, looked like he was running in cinder blocks. And I remember hitting with Dante Jr., well, really Dante Sr. right before I had a tryout with the Detroit Tigers. And Dante was like, man, I'm telling you right now, Dante Jr. is good, but Bo is going to be the better prospect. And I was like, really? I was like, that kid looked like, he's bad-bodied and short. And he's like, dude, he's going to hit a growth spurt, trust me. But he's like, he already has a great arm. He's like, the athleticism is going to come. He's going to be the better prospect. Dante Sr. was 100% right. And Dante Jr. was, I think, 17 at the time. And I think Bo was like maybe 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy how, like, guys, and now looking back, I'm like, yeah, I could see it now. But it's just crazy how even her dad was like, yeah, Bo's going to be the one that probably makes it to the big leagues, and Dante will probably flame out in the minor leagues. I think that's what he really wanted to say. But it will be interesting to see how this impacts Bo and where he goes, because you think that a contending team would be looking for a shortstop / middle infielder who can hit 30 home runs, hit 290, runs the bases well, and just a good, quiet, solid, all-around baseball player.
No, I agree. That's going to be interesting, especially to see where he falls or where he lands. Who's going to be in the market for him? I'm trying to think of right now, like early contenders that would be in the market for a shortstop. The Tigers, maybe. I mean, I think I couldn't even tell you what Javi Baez is doing anymore. I mean, that poor guy. I mean, he absolutely catfish the Tigers. But I'm trying to think, man. Like, I'm trying to think of like some contenders, some early contenders that could potentially use him. Maybe the Braves could be a landing spot. I know that they have Arcia.
Yeah.
But maybe the Braves. To be good.
I was gonna say the Braves because I think they are a team that definitely likes to ball on the budget. Like they rather let Freddie walk and give Matt Olson the money for almost similar production and a younger player. And it's like, hey, we can go get Bo, trade for him, and give him, $180 million or $200 million, but he's going to be our shortstop for the next 7-8 years. That's a lot how the Braves operate, and we both know the Braves draft and develop very well. So that's another reason why I think they'd be a good trade prospect for the Blue Jays. Plus, they're not in the same, one's in the AL, one's in NL. So you're not going to have to worry about seeing Bo 4 series or 8 series a year. At the most, you're going to see him, 1 or 2 times in a year if you're doing some interleague ball. And the Braves would be a great franchise that if you're getting 2 to 4 of their prospects, like you're probably half those guys are going to hit and start for your big league team, which is what you want and value when you're getting rid of a all-star level player in Bo Bichette.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be I tell you, I think this year's trade deadline for the MLB is going to be really interesting to cover as we continue on this, podcasting path and talking about sports. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to cover, especially with, college season getting close, kind of getting close to the wrapping up, and it's going to be really interesting. So I'm excited. I'm excited to go down that path, man.
And we'll end on this, but I don't know if you've seen the clip from Zach Veen, the Colorado Rockies top prospect,
The first baseman.
who had that crazy bat flip that almost
Yeah.
like hit the pitcher. He just got
Yeah.
called up today.
Oh, did not see that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just saw that like an hour ago on the MLB Instagram. So it's going to be
Okay.
interesting. I'm trying to I've already checked like twice on my fantasy team. I'm like trying to pick him up. And I'm like, I don't need, and I believe it's outfielder, but I don't need an outfielder. But when you can upgrade like that, and it's like he might come up, pitchers aren't going to know him, and maybe he can jump off the wall and drop 20 bombs this year. That would be a valuable pickup. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's the first guy to really get called up so far this year. I could be off on that, but I believe he is. So it'd be interesting to see how that turns out for him. And it's kind of like, and I don't think an injury happened for the Rockies. It was like, if you're gonna call up a dude 2 weeks into the season, why not just have him join the big league team from the jump?
Yeah, I've never understood that. He's a right fielder. That's right. He's a
Yeah,
right fielder. I was thinking first baseman for some reason. Odd guy though. You see where his hair is
yeah,
purple? I'm like,
yeah,
dude, like what are
yeah,
we doing? I don't know. Baseball's changed, man. It's not the same when
yeah.
we played.
Uh,
Somebody dyes their hair purple, you're like, hey, ew,
hey,
relax.
the Yankees allow beers now, so
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a different world we live in. That's for damn sure. That's for damn sure. But yeah, no, that'll be interesting to see. I'm trying to think of other prospects that are like right there on the cusp of on the call up. I'll have to go back and do some digging, and maybe on the next episode give some takes on who we could see coming up. Go through some prospects and timelines and see what the analysts are talking about and see what we think about that guy getting called up and if that team needs him. That'd be a good one.
yeah, yeah. I think even just dedicating like a solo small show to that would be fun. That'd
Okay,
be
yeah,
something interesting to do, and we could put a
absolutely.
little bit more production behind it. Actually, get some clips of the guys so people can actually see who we're talking about and what their
Hmm.
stats have been like the last year in the minor leagues and all that good stuff. So that's a great idea, and we'll definitely try to get that going here soon. But on that note, man, we will end this show. We thank y'all for tuning in, and again, well done, Gavin. And I'll give myself a gold star for today, and we will check
Absolutely.
y'all next time.
Absolutely. I'll see